Good day, friends. Today we're getting ready for autumn by changing out the decor on my small home altar. You might not know it from the view out the window, but the season is starting to change. We're on the cusp of autumn, and here in Alberta that means you have equal opportunities for weather that is cool and crisp, a heat wave, or a sudden snowfall. I wish I was kidding. Suffice it to say, Mother Nature is a fickle wench, and I aim to stay in her good books as best as possible. The autumn equinox is technically September 22nd this year, but is celebrated from the 21st to the 24th. Most folks will generally just celebrate solstices and equinoxes on the 21st of their respective months, but because the Earth is just as wibbly-wobbly as other timey-wimey stuff, scientists nudge it around every so often. Because pagan-y types like myself like to celebrate the balances or planned imbalances of the year, we tend to side with the scientists. So for all you folks observing the equinox this year, happy harvest, equinox, mabon, or whatever name your tradition uses to mark the occasion. This is my small home altar. I believe everyone should have a small space for communing with their personal belief system. It could be a special place on the mantle for your family Bible, or a nook that's perfect for your crucifix. It could be a space in the garden that seems tailor-made for a small statue of the Buddha, or a portion of one shelf with offerings for your household spirits. I suppose the nihilists in the audience can devote whatever space they want to their works of Kierkegaard, Nietzsche, and Derrida. I'm not judging. Whatever it is, it's personal to you. My altar is an antique washstand passed down from my parents. I'm pretty sure there's a matching china pitcher and bowl set somewhere which looked lovely in the old Victorian we lived in when I was a kid, but is less suitable for a modern two-story suburban home in a city that knocks down their buildings the moment they encroach on passable architecture. As the washstand is an antique, I do my best to protect it from the elements. That means no water or fire unless there's a protective covering, usually in the form of a trivet or liner. The one modern addition to the space is a Google Network puck, because otherwise internet on our second floor is a pain in the arse. My altar just coincidentally happens to be located central to everywhere internet really needs to be up here. Remember folks, just like any other tradition or religion, we all have to move and change with the times. If that means building high-speed Wi-Fi into your altar, just go with it. The Electronic Frontier Foundation can use all the help it can get, and energy is energy. It's what you do with it that matters. I picked up a couple of meters of seasonal fabric on sale last year with a couple of projects in mind. The purple looks nice and moody and should go well in the space. There are a couple of items I'm designing around, and while the orange would be awesome, it might be a little overwhelming. The stand measures 76 centimeters by 40 centimeters. I'm going to cut my fabric just a tiny bit larger than that for seam allowances. I'm putting my fashion fabric on top and a floral print I liberated from Mum's stash on the bottom. If I don't find a more suitable spring fabric, it may do in a pinch, though I'm not sure I want glitter all over the bare wood of the washstand. I placed the pieces of fabric right sides together, stitched around the edges, turned it out, ironed, and top-stitched everything in place. Voila! An easy-peasy seasonal altar cloth. Let's put it in place and see how that looks. Nice. A bit plain, but it doesn't need to be fancy. You could use a lace trim if you wanted, or edge it with some knitting or crochet. Embroidery might be a nice touch if you have the time. Really, it will depend on the fabric you choose and the aesthetic you prefer. Folks dropping in on my Instagram may have noticed some doilies popping up here and there and wondered just why the heck I'd be crocheting those particular items. Honestly, doilies at this gauge aren't really all that difficult. Apparently I learned a few things from making vintage lace with teeny tiny stitches because this was downright pleasant. I'm using a bit of Aunt Lily's Fashion 3 in Bridal White. It's neither a truly glaring brilliant white nor an antiqued ecru. It hunkers down very comfortably as a pretty off-white. The hook is a 2.75mm ergonomic that I picked up somewhere. I'm not generally in the habit of making doilies. I usually think of them as a fairly old-fashioned item, either to put under a vase on an end table or to use as an absorbent antimacassar for elder gents who want to protect the headrest of their lazy boy from their scalp oils or hair goop. I had a grandfather who used Brill cream. I know the threat it represents. This doily, however, is just a little bit extra. The pattern is The Divine Queen of Skulls by Anne Wanamaker. I'll leave a link to the appropriate Ravelry pages in the description below. I understand some folks are experiencing physical reactions to Ravelry's graphical interface change a few months ago, so I apologize for directing you there if that's a problem. I'm a migraine sufferer myself, so I sympathize. I'm not personally triggered by the site, but I'm definitely thankful for all the other companies that have included a dark mode interface. Hope springs eternal that Ravelry will, at some point, have similar options for all of us. That said, I also trained as a graphic artist, so I can understand how the folks producing Ravelry might feel if they made what seemed to be a genuine effort to freshen up the site and build in new UX UI standards and features, only to face the mother of all backlashes. Nobody's gonna win this one, folks, and I'm so sorry. So we have our altar cloth and our centerpiece. Now what? I can't exactly remember where I found this fine fellow. I've had it for a good 5 or 10 years. Might have come from Michael's, a dollar store, or one of those fly-by-night Halloween stores. See, if you've watched enough of my videos, I've told you there was a place for cheap Halloween merch in every home. You just have to trust me on these things. There are all sorts of ways to lay out a pagan altar. From what I've seen, the most popular layouts include a male-female balance or the elements placed at their associated cardinal directions. I generally use an elemental layout on my altar. I represent those elements through different symbols. Some coal and a small pot of sand for the stabilizing influence of earth in the north, a kazoo in the east for air, a small candle in the south for fire, and some amethyst to symbolize water in the west. I used to use incense for air, but that was when I had a little altar space under the window in my office. Probably best not to use the smelly stuff in an enclosed space without warning others first. I add a few extra bits as sentimental symbols. Some crystals, small balls of leftover fingering weight yarn for creativity, A twig from the apple tree in our front yard is a rudimentary wand, and a little cash because, well, everyone can use a little extra money in their lives. Finally, I use an old dull paring knife in lieu of an athame. It's possible more little trinkets and reminders will join these over the next quarter of a year. You may have noticed that my altar isn't anything expensive or particularly ritualistic. It's just a little area where I can be reminded of Mother Earth and pay respect to the planet that is our home. There's no need to purchase expensive ornate chalices or ritual knives. Most of the traditions I have learned, whether pagan, Christian, or otherwise, have tried to teach mindfulness and kindness, and I'd rather work on those qualities than spend a lot of money trying to flex on the cosmos. Thank you so much for joining me as I prepare for this year's harvest season and countdown to Samhain. If you haven't done so already, please click that subscribe button, and if you want to be notified when I release new videos, check out the bell.